Dear students, this is module number 148 for the subject of strategic human resource management. And in this module, we will talk about the third perspective, though often not regarded as a third perspective, but those books that are particularly addressing the employment relations at work, they definitely are dedicated to the only subject, that is employment relations. So they talk in more detail. While when we are talking about strategic human resource management and employment relations, we cannot go in that much detail or in that much depth in the subject of employment relations. But we need to understand it from the perspective of what are the employment relations implications for strategic human resource management or for HR professionals. So the perspective on the employment relations, the third perspective, we will talk about Marxist perspective. So what is Marx's perspective, or who was Marx? So we will talk about that. So Karl Marx, a German philosopher, and he lived in during the period of 1818 to 1883. So under this perspective, or according to the Marx perspective, his perspective was very similar to the pluralistic perspective. That is, the conflict is evident, and conflict is seen, which is it is inevitable. You cannot avoid it. Simply, the Marx perspective was very similar to the pluralistic perspective, and according to that perspective, you cannot avoid conflict at workplace. Simple as that, because both parties have their own interest. Let's see what Marx suggested, and what are the basics of his theory, and what are the basics behind his concept of employment relations or industrial relations, and from where his opinion stemmed from, or the sources of his opinion or the sources of his concept. In other words, if you have an opinion about something, definitely your opinion is based on some sources. That source can be your expectations, that source can be your observation, that source can be your personal experience, that source can be what you have learned in the books and over the social interactions. So there are some sources when people have an opinion about something. So according to Marx's approach, conflict is a product of capitalist society. This is a very interesting perspective. From the Marx perspective, industrial relation has a wider meaning. It is not only confined to that you are working somewhere and there is a conflict occurs only because of you and that place. The conflict occurs only because of you and the employer, or the that workplace and you as an individual or all other employees. According to this perspective, the conflict arises not because of rift between management and workers. Rift refers to a kind of broken relationship or a damaged relationship, or something which is really cracking something or breaking something. So the conflict arises not because of a rift between management and workers, but as a result of division in the society between those who have the resources and those who have labor to offer. So very interesting. If you pay attention to this, time constants may not allow us to talk about this for hours and hours. But if you pay a slight conflict, if you pay a little interest, a little time, and investigate further about what Marx suggests, or if you try to realize what Marx suggests, then you may find it very interesting that the conflict is because of what you have. You only have to offer labor. You have nothing else to offer. While the employer has to offer you the resources, and it is why you don't have resources, why you only have a labor. This is because of the capitalism. Capitalism I hope I have talked about that sometimes in the past. That is a perfect competition. That is a survival for the fittest, or that is the market forces. They decide, for example, what should be the labor or what should be the salary, and how much one should work. So the market forces decides. So this is what we are actually living in an era where capitalism or a capitalist society, where people believe that this is one of the best form of economic management in any country or all over the world. Most of the countries are capitalist. So industrial relations conflict is thus equated with political and social unrest. Unions are thus labor reaction to exploitations. Why employees go for a union? Because this is a reaction to employer expectation of employees. So according to this perspective, the capitalist society is the underpinning source of conflict between the employee and the employer. It is not only the employee and the employer. Thank you.